Good afternoon. It is Sunday already. Slightly depressing. So when we left off yesterday, we'd watched some cheese rolling. We'd watched the hysterical AI video, and we'd even done some lace making. Well, today, let's try some more. So let's off my mound of cloths. It's a little cooler in here today. It's cooler outside. I've had the door wide open rather than just kind of on the hook as I would normally do. So with any luck, it will not be quite so straight. I just realised my hand still hurts. Alright. Now, one thing I need to do, she says not seeing any of them. Where are my pin pusher? Yes. There's the other one. Right. So what we need to do is push down these outside pins. Because, well, we want to keep those. So. And then we want to do these. Now, I can't entirely see which of these are outside and which are not. Because what? As you know, my eyesight makes... It's not a depth perception problem because I can catch really well. I just struggle with... Let's put these all down. You should have come out. You should have come out. No, you shouldn't. You were good. Tell a lie. You were okay. Back in. Here. To go back in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. 5. Just some look more pokey out than others. That's okay. I can cope with that. There are worse things in life. So, where are we at? We're at, you are once again too long. Stop that. So how is everybody on this fine Sunday afternoon? For those of you who were here last night, I hope you had a good sleep. Well, I hope everybody slept well, but for those of you who joined me last night, tried to persuade some AI to do another video today. Given the rather large amount of videos on how to do various stitches, I thought I'd ask it to cover cloth stitch, half stitch, cloth stitch, rose ground, and standard ground, because those are all the stitches required for that. So it included crochet, spinning, knitting, machine sewing, making things with clay, from an impression of something that was crafted, but still making things with clay. The words were good. The words were, you know, the right explanation for things. They, you know, it's, you know, without going 100% fact checking, it seemed pretty reasonably accurate. It was the actual footage that was wrong. I mean, it didn't have like 12 fingers on a hand, like the first one, but it was using stock footage, so it wasn't generated footage, mainly because I didn't want to spend £125 on generating it. So it used stock footage, not generated stuff. But it was absolutely garbage. We're safe, people. We, the crafting people, are safe. But to be honest, my experience with it as a programmer isn't a lot better. I mean, it doesn't matter how precise you are, it's like a belligerent child, in that if there is a way for it to work a way into misinterpreting what you said, it's all over that. You know, sort of like, can you get me a cold can of Coca-Cola out of my fridge? Here is a Sprout. Okay, that doesn't really answer my question, you know. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are some amazingly good fake, deep fake type things. But one thing I have noticed, and I'm getting a little fed up of, is the short videos on things like YouTube and Facebook and stuff, which are, you know, here is a semi-realistic but definitely AI cartoony but not interpretation of, say, what the Disney princesses would look like. Here is the before and after, and they kind of, you know, appear out the back of their own heads, and, you know, a whole pile of videos are clearly AI put together rather than done by a human. And it's not that you can't watch them, but, you know, I really don't need to see, you know, I don't care what it thinks the realistic version of, you know, Elsa looks like or whatever. I really, really don't. It's kind of dumb, really. And the fact that everyone's all raving about it, and it's like, I mean, it's kind of clever, the things that it can do, but they're clearly made up. Yeah, it's like the stories out of a small child. Most of it is a work of art, you know? It's like Ralph Wiggum, when he sees Principal Skinner and Mrs. Kapupple in the cupboard, and it's like, and they were making babies, and I saw the baby, and I saw the head of the baby, and it fell out, and no, Ralph, no, you didn't. It's that kind, you know, AI is that kind of over keen, you know, making it up to because someone's listening, and it can do some good things. As I said yesterday, I think, the first time in living history, I was doing something, and Unity was doing something a bit freaky, and I asked the AI bot, you know, what can I do about this? And it said, have you tried this? And I was like, no, really, whatever, you know, fine, I'll try it. And it actually bloody worked. But it was one line. It says you can force it to redraw by doing this. Okay. Oh look, now my skeletons aren't halfway through the floor after this. Excellent. That's all I needed. Really? It is, for me, I tend to treat it a little like the guy in the desk next to you. You can ask it a simple question of, do you know where to find this? Yes, no. Great. That's kind of all it's good for. The creative side, it is... I mean, if you've got enough money to spend and you can afford the hyper elite kind of behind the kept away from the public stuff, sure. For us mortals who just want a bit of free crap, no. They're all crap. And if you're going to spend that much to make a reasonable one, well, then you're not likely to be making much profit, is all I can think of, to be honest. Yeah, of course, like everything in life, it's not always about profit, but most of the world seems to work on the theory of I need to make as much money as humanly possible. I like to work more on the whatever I've made I'd like to keep, if at all possible, options. Although, saying that, I bought myself a new Raspberry Pi today. Well, yesterday, it arrived today. Because my old one, I use it for Pi-hole and a bunch of other little things that I've written. And don't get me wrong, I really love the things that I've written, and I love it as Pi-hole, does a good job. But the new version of Pi-hole isn't really supported on my old Pi. You know, there's nothing wrong with my old Pi. There really isn't. It occasionally loses its marbles. It hasn't had an update for ages, so if you could connect to it, and I do say if, because you can't, but if you could connect to it, it would probably kill it, because, well, it's probably full of a million holes, and all the script kiddies would break into it. So from that point of view, you know, it's a liability, but it's on the inside. No one can connect to it but me, so really not that worried. But I decided that a newer, better, you know, kind of more alive version would be good. They have improved a few things since I bought the last one. When I bought the last one, you very much had to put large amounts of it together yourself. You kind of did with this one. Now, I'm not going to say this one's perfect, and the reason I'm not going to say this one's perfect is that the case it comes with didn't properly fit. You get 4 screws to hold it down to the case. Well, if you put 2 of them in, the other 2 can't line up. And there's only so much force you wish to apply to one end to try and make it line up. It's not true to square, either the case or the board or a bit of both. So from that point of view, slightly disappointing. But it's in the case, it's held in by the 2 at one end. It's not going anywhere fast. So that's quite good. It's a lot quieter than the old one, which I find surprising. But it's sitting there doing its thing. I will, I am tempted to do some fancy stuff with it. You know, make some glorious apps for it that, you know, allow me to do certain things with it. See if I can't, you know, do a few funkier things. Rory's snoring. You know, because being a Unix, it's all right, little man. It's all right. Being a Unix dude, I automatically turn the desktop off because don't need you running a graphical system when you're acting like a server. And if you don't need it to run, well, I don't need you to run it, you know. So that's, I turned that off. Oh look, an empty bobbin. I kind of need to fill that. Do that in a minute. Let's do you towards the end. Pick a different bobbin then. So yes, so that arrived just as I was about to try and start streaming. So I got a little bit sidetracked by that. But I'm here, so that's all that matters. Came in the end. Sorry if you can hear the idiot playing outside. Something we get a lot here is there must be well, I know there's a flight school, but I never noticed it much before when I lived slightly, well, from sitting here behind me. I was about a mile behind me in my last house, right? Never really noticed them. They obviously didn't fly over that quite so much. They love flying over here. No, I don't have a problem with that. I do have a problem with helicopters, as we all know. Why am I prepping bobbins? I'm an idiot. Just one of those. Clearly not at my best today, am I? But you know, they do, you know, on a really good day they'll do sign writing in the sky, and usually they draw a happy smiley face. Sometimes it makes, one day it made the news, which was a bit kind of weird, because, you know, it's just a smiley face, man. It's, you know, it's not like you wrote half of Lord of the Rings up there, you know. There's no poem, it's just a smiley face. But what you often do here is, you know, them doing the skywriting is quite noisy. And I don't really mind, but, you know, I did move here because I like listening to the birds and the animals and things. So I don't know if you can hear the birds, but I can. Cheap, cheap. Might be able to hear the trees rustle as well. This top is annoying me, but it's also cooler in here that I kind of, it's fine for mooching on my computer because all you kind of do is a bit of this, but the more you move your arms around, the worse it gets, because it's kind of a blanket with a slit up the middle, so your head goes in at the slit. I'm going to assume you should be down. And so it's not exactly the most stylish thing, but then, you know, since when was that ever a problem for me? But it does just flap about, because it's kind of a ponchery thing. It does kind of flap about and drag in things, and I'm forever knocking things off things with it, because of course it flaps about and catches on everything. So had a wasp in here earlier just to really cheer me up, but it did manage to bugger off of its own free accord, so it gets to live, which is good of it. Hello. My computer's been a bit funny today. I ended up rebooting it because I was trying to watch something on Sky. I pay for Sky. I don't tend to watch Sky. And I pay quite a lot for Sky, to be honest. But it does give me Netflix and a couple of other things that I only have to do one payment rather than a whole bunch. So, you know, it's kind of a good thing. But I do pay quite a bit for Sky. And, well, there's a pile of books, in fact 2 piles of books and a box and a thing and a jar and everything in front of my TV. I haven't turned my TV on this year, to be honest. And, well, I was kind of thinking I really ought to, you know, watch this stuff. I pay for it. And something I enjoy watching I couldn't find, so I was having a mooch. and it's on Sky, and I'm a few series behind because, well, as I say, I haven't turned the TV on for a while. So I was trying to watch it, and it kept going, "Oh, you've got screen recording software, you can't do that." No, I haven't. I turned OBS off. I'd killed the NVIDIA app because, you know, that's got potential screen recording in it. So I ended up rebooting my machine, and my machine suddenly went into a BIOS update, which, you know, frankly is never a good sign in life. But I am pleased to say that once it did reboot, I could watch my thing. So I've watched a couple of episodes of that this afternoon. But computers can just be a raw pain in the butt, you know? Well, I haven't heard anything from my lovely co-workers. What time is it? 3 o'clock, who knows? I don't want to poke the bear because I don't want to pretend like I care, you know. But it will be amusing if it hasn't worked. I will genuinely laugh a lot if it hasn't worked. Because they could have done this during the working week. It's not production, so they could have done this when people were around. No, let's choose to do it at the weekend when no one's paid for it. Well, there's an answer to that. Convinced some of you ain't. You're good, you're good. You haven't crossed that you shouldn't. So I was having a look a bit more at my strip. I made a couple of tweaks to it so far. Trying to kind of not pad out, but yeah, I turned that off. And this is kind of what I dislike, is I'm really glad that you want to protect yourself from, you know, people trying to copyright your shit. That's really good. But not everybody's out to do that. And if I've paid you good money, I want to be able to watch my shit. Or for at least for you to have the decency to say, we have detected, insert this particular thing. And until you close that, we will not let you watch the video. Don't just go, we've detected something we don't like, ha ha ha. You know, at least be clear as to which thing it is that you don't like so I can go and kill it. It's just ludicrous. It's just one of those stupid things that you find yourself going, it's you know, I get that you need to protect your stuff and that people will copyright, but people will copyright it anyway. There's other ways of doing that. I mean, one way to do it is have two computers. RDP into one, and then just record whatever's on the one you've RDP'd into with the first one. I mean, that doesn't take much imagination, people. So let's not, you know, let's kind of not be you know, let's not be pretending there's still, I mean, there's always the whole kind of how people used to rip stuff out of the cinema, which of course was the record it on your phone. I mean, It's not great quality, but hey, you know, there's always ways, you know. If someone really wants to, they will find a way, dude. But what you more tend to do is piss off perfectly reasonable human beings who weren't. They just wanted to watch a bloody programme. And so I have no idea what it was detecting, because, as I say, I turned off all the NVIDIA stuff. I made sure that OBS was turned off. I made sure Twitch wasn't running. I had Discord off because, well, you know, you can screen share over Discord. All of it. And it still was kind of going, oh, well, there's something there. So tell me what it is. Tell me what the bloody options are that you think I'm running, so that I can go and try and work out why you think it's running when I'm confident that there's nothing left. Oh, Trev does that all the time. To be honest, I used to, but I don't anymore. I used to be a lot more that way inclined. I mean, for example, when I'm done streaming today, I'm going to go and I'm going to watch the new Captain America film because it's on Disney Plus. Well, I've got Disney Plus, so I'll watch it. It is that kind of thing. It is the you know, I've got Amazon, Netflix, Paramount, Disney Plus, Sky, which pay for most of the above. You know, if it's not on one of those, I probably don't need to watch it yet. I won't die without it. I mean, in the days where I used to clamour to go to the cinema or on like the first Friday it was out, I'd have, you know, kind of wanted... I mean, I did it with some of the early X-Men film. You know, I really wanted to see it and it wasn't out yet. Early 2000s, when shows I wanted to watch in America had like a 2-year delay here in the UK. I got really hacked off with that and wanted to watch them a little bit more real time. Because as we all know, there is nothing worse than... For example, I used to love NCIS. I don't love it quite so much anymore. Now they've changed so many people, but so I don't tend to watch it now. But when it was on, you know, the Facebook group would go, "Oh, you know, Tony's left. Well, he's got about 3 series to go over here in the UK. Do you mind?" You know, we're not at that point in the story, and I know that it's really nice that, you know, you're showing the Tony's final episode or whatever it was, or Ziva's final episode. Yeah, that's really nice. But the UK aren't at that bit, and you're on a global platform. Remember that not all of your audience are at the same point in the story. Stop giving spoilers, you know? I mean, obviously most of them leave eventually, but, you know, it's always frustrated me that, you know, for example, like Doctor Who yesterday, right? Other than what the fuck, right? Doctor Who in the UK is broadcast around the world on the same day. So if you want to see it in America, you are not seasons, months behind. I mean, you know, some channel might be, but as a generic rule, it is available in the whole world over. Whereas if we want to buy shows, we seem to be a year or 2 behind. Well, you know, we then at least have the good grace to share it so that you may all be talking about it together. Whereas the American stuff won't sell the newer stuff until they've seen it and discussed it and, you know, it's considered old. Then we can have it. It's like having your sister's hand-me-downs, you know? Until she's done with it, you don't stand a chance. And I find that frustrating for TV because, as I say, when anyone who, anyone you talk to who's also a fan but isn't in your country, they're 6 months ahead of you and you've got no idea who, they keep referring to characters that you don't know yet, and, well, when this happened, I haven't seen that. It makes it really frustrating. I mean, it used to be the same with films. Films used to come out in America 6, 9 months, even a year before they came out over here. They don't tend to do that quite so much now, but it still could be a thing. Just don't need it, Oh look, ads. With how much these bobbins constantly get longer, if this was any other craft, I'd be absolutely convinced that the threads were just pulling through the work and it was unraveling from the start, because they just constantly seem to get longer for no apparent reason. Really do all of them. No, I didn't. Did miss. I can't see over pins, and of course you can't lift it up to look either. You can come out. You can come out. You should go down. I should. You and you, by the looks of it. I can't see the end. Sorry about that. Okay. probably should have eaten, shouldn't I? See, how did this one end up this long? How come this one has got this much spare in it now? Look how much longer it is than all the others. Some of them just seem to spend their entire lives getting longer. You know what we really need? Some form of button on the end with a counter for each one. And each time it lets loose, you can see if there are specific bobbins that are really prone to it. And then chuck them. For ones that are not. 1, 2, 3, 5. Let's push you down some pins this side. Basically, yeah. It's, you know, it's utterly frustrating that, you know, the recommended half hitch knot is just shit, because if there is any tiny remote bit where it doesn't have hard tension, it's like it sits there and goes whee and zzz, and undoes itself while you're not looking. It's no worries. Hello to Naughty Girl's mum. Bless her. She walking? Okay, so she might as well be walking it then. There you go. Now, oh, my finger is sore. Never mind. It's only a finger. Let's put you there. Like that. buttons. You as we can. Drink. That was definitely my stomach. I apologise if you heard that. Just shortening some bobbins. Not too long, not too short. Getting backache. How can I have backache? It's only 40 minutes. It's because I pushed the pillow further back because for some reason, now if I didn't know better, I'd say that my ring light is leaning backwards, but I know it's not, because, you know, I can pull it forwards, but if I move the cushion to where it sits nicely on my table like it used to, you can't see anything of the bottom. Let me see if I can. And the problem is I try and lean forward and it kind of, let me move that forward, so that helps a little bit. I don't have to push it back quite so far. There, that's better. Because having it further away means I have to lean funny, which doesn't help me back. Let's try that. Maybe the dog's knocked it at some point. Because dogs do that. Stop getting longer. I'm too hot in this jumper and too cold without, and the flappy thing is too flappy. How autistic of me. And again, I apologise if the fly school is getting on your nerves, because it's about the only thing people around here haven't moaned too much about. They moan about everything else. Especially the ones who move to the country and then moan that the farmer tends to his land. They're quite amusing. I mean, it's not like we've got herds of dairy cows to worry about. And just imagine this lot getting cow muck on their car and, oh, it's terrible, we need to petition to stop this. You moved here, honey. I hear a wasp. There he is. Now don't come over here. Go outside. You were almost at the door. You turned around and came back in. He's sitting on something somewhere and I can't see. Where's Amy gone? Oh, there she is. Just checking. Just checking where you've got to. Don't need stories of you wandering off, do we? No. No, we don't. A little miss. Oh. You're a good girl. Yes, you are. Yes, my good girl. Yes, you is. You is. You're a good girl. Hello! 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 Yes, Amy. I love you very much. But I do not need your nose in my face. No. So I'm having a dog moment. We are having a moment, aren't we, Amy? Yes. Mm-hmm. Sure. You are good, but I'm trying to be doing other things, little one. I am. I'm trying to do things. Come on. That's it. You settle down. Hang on, let me do the reporting spam bot thing. I wouldn't mind, but reporting spam bot takes so many more clicks than it really needs to. You should just be able to like right click report as spam, you know? I'd live with an are you sure, but so you've got to click on it, then you can click report spam, then you have to select from a big list of stuff and say it's spam, then you have to type in what's wrong with it, then you have to click that you verify that this is true and okay, then you have to click that you confirm this is your email. There is that. But it makes me laugh that I've set up a filter to catch basically best viewers, cheap viewers, and remove the space, and I catch them all. So why can't they? You know, I swear all you guys do is get to watch me shortening bobbins. It doesn't feel like I make any lace in between. I mean, I know I do, but it doesn't feel like it. I'll try. Yeah, fair enough. Aha, I understand. I must admit, when I first got my current monitor, I was really pleased with myself because it's quite a big monitor. It's got a good high resolution on it, and compared to the laptop I was using previously, it was 4 times as big. But of course, all that happens is I now watch things 4 times bigger, and still have no more space. So, I think that's one of the things that's always slightly annoyed me, is that if you have... It is a very big and a real thing, and one of the things that I find frustrating is that whether you've got an 18-inch monitor, a 28-inch monitor, a 38-inch monitor, irrelevant of how many inches you have... Thank you very much. Thank you for subbing. But as you were saying, right, the biggest problem I have is that whether it's 18 inches or 38 inches, it's nearly always the same resolution. It's just bigger. So instead of being, instead of keeping the same ratio of dots to the inch, it's, it'll be 4K. And it, whether it's, why on earth, for want of a better expression, why is this 4K? On what planet does that need to be 4K, right? Why can't, and if we can do that dense a pixel resolution to make a tiny mobile phone screen 4K, why can't we keep that up and have, 8 billion pixels by 8 billion pixels as a monitor, which does then give you space? Years ago, and I do mean quite a lot of years ago, so we're talking like 18 plus years ago, kind of 18 years ago, there was a video of a group of people who had turned an entire wall of quite a long room into a screen, and it was a touch screen, and it was in the days when touch screens were not normal. You didn't normally have them on your PC or your laptop. They were around, but they were not common, and this thing literally must have been 15 meters, maybe more, right? And it was not crappy resolution, it was decent resolution. And the aim was to make desktops, literally desktops, so that the surface of your desk would be a monitor. So much like before, when you were writing and you'd look down at the paper and you'd be writing like this, instead of it being up here and horizontal, it would be down on the thing. And that is a much more natural reaction for humans, apparently. So they were trying to kind of instigate that. And to be honest, I was really excited for that. And it just so happened that not long after watching the video, we had a Meet the American Overlord kind of meeting. And we drove hundreds of miles to go and all meet up in a stupid building. I mean, if she's flying in, why couldn't she just come to us? Anyway, because she was only meeting us. It wasn't like there were other groups. It was only the stuff from here, so she could have come, but she didn't. Anyway, I mentioned it, and she was really interested, because it is the kind of thing that, if you have meeting rooms, for example, instead of having projectors and all of that kind of stuff, if you had an interactive wall, you've effectively got that, but without the hassle, because, well, it's part of the room, right? And personally, I quite like the idea. Because to be honest, there are days where I feel that if my entire wall of this room in front of me was a desktop and had a decent resolution, it still wouldn't be enough. I'd still need more space. Because, you know, it's a thing, alright? But to be honest, desktop monitor creep applies to so many other things. So, for example, in weaving, there's shaft envy. Now, shaft envy is that when you first buy a weaving loom, you kind of go, I only need 4 shafts, so you buy 4. But, well, I can't do that because I really need 8. I'll get 8, so you get 8. Oh, well, I really can't do that. I really need 12. Well, so you get 12. Oh, well, that's blocking me from doing this. I really want to make one of these, and that needs 16, so you get 16. Alright? And, of course, most looms are not inherently expandable. Now, some are, but usually only within a certain extent. And, you know, sort of like, so each time you end up buying a loom. Well, some looms are just inherently expensive on top of that. I mean, the loom that's in the room behind me costs more than my car. I mean, it's not a cheap sport. And, you know, even if you think of lace making. So here I am, I've got a bunch of bobbins and a lace making pillow. But if I wanted to do, say, a one-piece tablecloth, well, you can't really do that on this cushion. Not really. So you need a bigger cushion. Well, they don't really make bigger cushions. So what do you do, right? There is always the what I'd like to be doing and what my tools will allow me to do. And monitor creep is a more cheaper option, to be honest, than an awful lot of things, but still not bloody cheap. It's kind of one of those things, isn't it? It's like you're almost damned if you do and damned if you don't. Because virtually everything these days you buy, oh, it's Wi-Fi controllable. It needs internet updates. But there is also a bit of you that kind of says, why does my kettle need to be Wi-Fi enabled? You know, why can't I get off my fat butt and go and press the button? Why have I got to have an internet enabled, you know, controllable kettle, right? Why is it that is a thing? And yes, it is a thing, right? I know I don't have one. But there are so many things now that are internet this, AI's, you know, claiming AI, you know, half this, doing a bit of that. And yet at the same time, for anyone who has a Google or Google Home system or the Alexa thing, we are careful mentioning her name around here. She will be forever referred to as Bitchface. You ask Bitchface a question. Bitchface, what is this? Oh, I'm having problems right now. Or Bitchface, play this. There was quite a few. There's been quite a few songs that you know, some song that you really, really like, and your brain goes, I really want to hear that now. So you go, Bitchface, play this song that I really like, and you name it. You know, I want to play this song by this artist. And it comes up with something completely different by some bozo you've never heard of. And it sounds nothing like it. It's got none of the words you mentioned in it. My favourite argument with her is,
I have a routine I have named Settle Down. According to her, that sounds like set alarm. She also loves doing so I've got a house alarm. So, you know, bitch face, set, you know, where I live alarm, right? Because it's named after where I live, because I've got access to Trev's, so to make them different. We have, you know, where he lives alarm and where I live alarm, right? Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know that device. Or there's more than one device of that name. No, no, isn't. Or, I'm sorry, I don't know what you mean. And you're sitting there going, I know I'm not awake yet, and I'm pretty sure I haven't had a stroke. So, can you just do it? The number of times, bitch face, turn light on, dee-doop, claiming it's done it. No, it hasn't. It heard turn it off. How does off sound like on? I mean, you know, with all of these fears about AI, the only fear is the day it actually does what you tell it to. Because we're quite safe from most of it. As we showed yesterday with the video, it's, we are not overly in danger from it. We're really not. Skynet is not a thing yet. It is capable of a lot, and sometimes it can really impress you. Some of the things that a free AI will do is really sometimes quite impressive, but not often. More times than not, it's a bit dumb. It can do a single static image, usually, and it will draw whatever it draws pretty well. But what it draws may not be highly accurate. Now, obviously, an awful lot of the AI things do come with a, if you've expected decent information out of this, you should check it, Fair enough. But it's just that, the video we had yesterday, I asked it. No, and there are some things that it does really well and some things it doesn't. So I asked it yesterday for basically something a bit like this. Top-down view of a blue lace pillow with someone making torchon bobbin lace with bobbins. I had to specify with bobbins because, well, there weren't. It didn't. Well, it still didn't. And basically, I unrolled what could have been crochet, but it wasn't. It just looked to be glued together string. But one hand must have had at least, well, two of the hands had more than 5 fingers. One must have had nearly 14 fingers. And if you looked really carefully underneath the kind of, I'm going to call it a mesh, because, well, can't really call it anything else. You could see more fingers that were left. So obviously, like someone when they rolled it out and their hands underneath, you could see the fingers underneath, but the fingers weren't attached to hands. And it's kind of like, what the fuck is that? Earlier this morning, I asked it to kind of do a video on making the basic lace stitches for a laugh. And it talked about it, and the talk that it gave was good. The pictures that went with it were hysterical. Hand knitting, and you actually saw them knitting. Bobbins, showing sewing bobbins, thread spools. There was crochet, and dear God, one of those ladies, most crochet people hold their crochet hook a bit like a pen, and you kind of pokety. This was more of the stabby, and it was the most awkward looking thing. She would certainly not want to do a big project with that kind of work. It just kind of, it was just this whole level of that. Oh, there was machine sewing, spinning. What's this got to do with lace making? The words were good, but not any of the pictures. What I was really hoping to find was an AI bot that would take, say, my videos off my YouTube channel, because I'm telling it to, and make like almost a summary video. So make like a bit of a montage of my videos. But apparently not. I'm tying knots. Yeah, I just kind of... There are things that it does well, but there are definitely things it can't. And to be honest, I find programming is one of them. Mainly, and the excuse that I'm giving it makes a lot of sense. If you think of how many times code is posted on the internet with the lines of, this doesn't work and I don't know why, right? So an awful lot of the code that it will have seen is not working. Is it too surprising then when you say to it, write me a method that does this? It can't. Or what you get, it gives you something, but it doesn't do what you asked. Because, well, all of the things it found were lots of things going, mine doesn't work. But it doesn't read that it doesn't work. It just reads the code and goes, oh, this must be good. So it doesn't exactly go, oh, I found the source code for this. Oh, there's a bug in it. I won't tell you about that bit then because it's got a bug in it. No, it just goes, oh, it must be good. Here you go. Here it is. Oh, wait, it doesn't actually do what you want because it's got a bug. Well, never mind, Ask me again later and maybe I'll find a new one. That's how it comes over to me. And I do know that to an extent there is an element of truth in that. But at the same time, you know, there's a guy on the Unity forums who basically, unless AI's done it, he's not interested. And it makes many of us laugh because he will argue black is white to suit his manifesto kind of thing, right? He was getting mad that he couldn't find an AI bot that would take a... Well, I don't object to it. What I do kind of object to is it's a bit like, and I sit on a bit of a soapbox for this one. If you're watching a program and they have shoehorned in certain, let's call them minority things. So, you know, a story about the Mormons in 1600 or whatever will now have some trans people in it. I have nothing against the trans community. But if you're having a historical thing, while there have always been a level of that going on, it doesn't need to be in absolutely everything. And you know, if you're having a story about, you know, mountain climbers, you're hardly going to have someone in a wheelchair. Because, well, you know, it's not that you don't wish for them to be able to experience those things, but if, you know, winding a chair up a hill is not an easy feat. And so if you're in a aircraft, yeah, you know, if you're up on a space station, having a wheelchair can be perfectly accessible. Don't have a problem with that. But there are times when some of these things just don't fit. And AI is getting the same way in that we are, you know, like I said, having a kettle on the internet kind of level of things. You know, where, you know, I don't need AI in my kettle. I don't need AI in my microwave or my dishwasher, or it doesn't really need it. Toilets and I really, you know. Well, and don't get me wrong, I do feel for the trans people who find themselves marginalised by people who are not just going to accept that that's the way they are. As someone who does not entirely fit into standard social norms, I perfectly understand that it is highly frustrating, very draining, and, well, that's part of the reason I stay at home and, you know, you lot all can do your stuff out there, right? But it is, I do feel for them to an extent. But when you consider that my previous employer had a team of 20 people whose full-time job it was to be bigging up the trans community, we had hours that every member of staff had to go on training about being, you know, sensitive to pronouns and the like. Now, I don't disagree. As part of some generic training, it should be covered that, you know, you should be respectful in the workplace. One way of, you know, being disrespectful in the workplace is if you've got someone who wants to be called they, you should honour that. It doesn't kill you, you know, give it a go. So, from that point of view, I have no problem, you know, to be honest, you know, when I work with people, I don't care what gender you are. I don't care who you sleep with. I don't care what you want to call yourself. I really don't. If I can't pronounce it, expect a nickname, because, well, you know, can't pronounce it. But other than that, you know, it is the, I'm sorry, but if you do your job, I will think reasonable of you. If you don't do your job, I will think you're an ass. It's nothing to do with any form of gender, colour, religion. It's because you're an ass. And so I do have sympathy for them. But like you say, it's the prevalence of it in everything is disproportionate to reality. And it's a bit like, we all know that when you were a kid, you grew up, you know, and you had certain views of the world based on what you'd seen on TV. I mean, you know, no offence to the Americans, but, you know, British watching American TV, you know, children in American TV shows go to school, come back and seem to have 5 hours of light. Yeah. Very much. But also, you know, no offence to the vegans here, but when it comes down to your trans activist, and obviously they can be trans themselves, but the trans activist as a general niche, they're like the vegans of old. How will you know if you met one? Because they'll have told you. Right? You know, it is that kind of thing, right? Is that we have got to that stage in the society where you'll know if you met one because they will have told you. And I don't have any problem. You do your thing, love. If you want to believe you're a fairy or you're an alien from outer space, you know, if that makes you happy, you do you, right? But at the same time, you know, I will make some concessions so that you don't feel too uncomfortable. But no, and you know, it's a little bit like ISIS, right? Everyone knows that a minority of the ISIS people were somewhat extremist, because, well, they were. However, that does not make, you know, and we all know that does not mean that every single person who believed in that stuff was horrific. But for a while, they all kind of got tarred with the same brush. And, you know, that's going to be true for any kind of extremist area. And and I think that's the definition. It's the extremists of anything spoil it for everybody, right? Now, I do think that potentially there have been times when, you know, someone to stand up and shout, well, what about us, is a valid option. And, you know, much like the, you know, we don't have to go back too far where some form of discrimination against your colour was an issue. We don't have to go, well, kind of in places it's still true. But, you know, we have, there are always people who are going to make life hard for somebody else based on something. And it'll be, you know, and if they can't use this, they can't use that, they'll find something else, right? And I do know that it's not an easy life being different from social norms. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so I do think that, you know, the more different you are, perhaps, the more people need to give you a bit of space to work out how that works out for you. But at the same time, the whole world can't sit on hold while someone works out. But we, as you say, I think the problem comes when it becomes a real disproportionate amount of people that you see involved in shows. So you grow up, you know, if you kind of grow up, you grow up thinking this is normal. Now, then you're almost left believing, well, why aren't I seeing these people? Why aren't I seeing more of them? Because according to TV, they're everywhere. But as you've said, you know, it is a less percentage. It's not like 50% of the people, you know? If you grow up. Yeah, that's true. But, you know, if you think of how, as I said earlier, you know, when I was a kid, any TV show that had American children in it, they went to school in the daylight, right? They'd come home all year round in the daylight, and then seemingly have like 5 hours after school in daylight before, you know, it was bedtime. Well, either you lot only ever go to school for about an hour in the morning, or this is improportionate to reality. But it's one of those things is, again, because maybe as a child you do not question, well, how come they get to go to school in winter and it's not dark by the time they go? I mean, I know there are places like, you know, up north, the further north or nearer the pole you are, the more or less time you get during the day at certain times of the year. But, and it can be quite extreme. I mean, you know, if you're right at the North Pole or whatever, you get 6 months of summer of day and 6 months of night, pretty much. So, you know, okay, it can be very extreme. But at the same time, you watch the shows in America, you'd think you guys get 24 hours a day of daylight. Except when, of course, the bad guys come out, because then, of course, it's dark as a badger's butthole. So, you know, because only bad things happen at night. But there is all of these things. It's the same as, you know, how many films have been made around, you know, Doofus gets a job in a company as, like, you know, mail delivery dude. Within a week he's CEO. Well, that doesn't happen in real life ever, right? How many jobs are, oh, you're good at your job, we'll reward you, and you rise through the ranks? No, that doesn't happen much either. It is frustrating to have the false expectations that well, yeah. The best ones are the night shots that were clearly shot at like 12 midday, and they've just made it look black because, well, it was too bright, you know. Because it's always really obvious it's not moonlight. For some reason, it's always really obvious that that is not moonlight. It's daytime that you've made dark so that it look by you know, turning down the brightness dial. You know, it just looks like daylight turned down. Yeah, I know those ones. They make me laugh too. Exactly. You know. Yeah. And ice won't melt in the heat of moonlight either. Yeah, there are usually it's just usually really obvious that they didn't actually film it at night with lighting. It was daylight, you know. Usually for desert and wilderness scenes as well. Yeah. The other one that always makes me laugh is the apocalypse movies where they've all got great teeth, hair and clothes. Now, obviously, dentists don't necessarily immediately eradicate, but if you don't... you know, if you're all living underground in a hole and, you know, foraging berries for food, you're not going to be wearing, like, Chanel, you know, and Nike boots. It's just not a thing, right? And, you know, where did you get your makeup and hair products from? Who gave you that perm, you know? Yeah. Yeah, you know, as someone who, I specialise in watching B-rate horror movies and disaster movies. Oh, good God, people. Really? Where did she get those those perfectly manicured false nails from, you know? Or one of the Transformers movies. Oh dear God. It was one where the girl from, not the first movie, because of course they changed the girls. I do like a good B movie, but in one of the Transformers, and I forget which one it was, but they come she and the boy in the car, so the two kids from the first movie, although it's a different girl. I think it's about the third movie, but don't hold me to that. They get transported to space via one of the Decepticons or whatever, right? And in every scene, she's wearing something different. She ain't got no bag and backpack on her to be wearing a skirt here and trousers there and a different top here and a jacket there. can she not just wear a set of clothes for the movie? Yeah, she's supposed to be, you know, being blown up and you know, abducted, and yet there's an entire wardrobe following her around just off to the side. Yeah. I mean, we all used to take great delight in continuity errors, right? It was always the done thing was to try and spot continuity errors in films, right? But today you don't really have to spot them. They kind of leap out the screen going, look at me, look at me. And you're like, I thought you paid people to keep an eye out and make sure that... Yeah, you know, I thought we paid people to kind of make sure that, you know, if she had her hair in a ponytail, that it's kind of at least pretty much the same ponytail. Or if she had a, you know, if she's got a bag on her left shoulder, that it's not in her right shoulder on another shot, you know, or that she suddenly loses it for half an hour. Yeah, can we not be doing this? You know, if she's got red shoes here, she kind of needs red shoes, you know. How do the actors not even notice some of it? Yeah, some of them are just so huge that you question that you saw what you saw, because you're going, but that wasn't who was there. I mean, you know, it's almost like in one shot from one angle there are these people, and in another shot none of those people are there. And there was a film, and it wasn't the one where Tom Hanks lands a plane on the Hudson, but it was about a plane landing on a river in America, right? And it's very much it's more of a Z-rate movie, but, you know, you see this thing come down and this huge pile of smoke coming out from well, actually looks more behind another building, but it's supposed to be from the plane, right? And they all disembark, and what's really interesting is, when the plane lands, it's just a river. When they get off the plane and get to the other side of the bank, because of course you always walk all the way around to the other side of the bank, there's a river about 2 inches from the nose of the plane. Then in the next shot, no bridge over the river. Then the whole fucking plane disappears in one shot. And you're sitting there going, wow, you were awake, weren't you? I mean, I was barely watching and I spotted this. Come on. I do love some bad movies. You know, the kind where half the set moves every time they slam a door, you know, kind of level of movies. I mean, some of them truly are like watching kids' plays. They are so pitifully awful. And sometimes, surprisingly, they have famous people in that you really would have thought would have insisted on slightly better quality than this. I think, as you say, an awful lot of it is they were not expecting to make millions out of it. And so, with that in mind, they didn't have, you know, £50 billion worth of CGI just to, you know, fake draw someone in. You know, they either found a lookalike or, you know, chopped them out, you know. And so it is a more honest movie at that. In that, you know, you could look to do a movie of similar kind of stature, whereas obviously, you know, for the AAA movie, you know, you've got to have more CGI now than you can shake a stick at. And I think that's, and, you know, going back partly to the AI conversation, I also think that's one of the other disappointing things about films these days, is that very few films are actually shots of films. Most of it is, you know, set on a green screen or, you know, and done with computer enhanced or changed, or and it kind of takes a lot of the fun out of it, I think, for me. Knowing that, you know, someone didn't actually have, you know, there isn't a stuntman doing that. it's all kind of faked with green screen and a few fans, you know. I mean, think about the old films whenever they drove in old films and it was really, really clear that they were not moving and it was a piece of paper being moved behind them kind of thing, right? I kind of miss those days. I mean, sometimes it is quite impressive the level of effort and work that they do to put, you know, characters on screen that weren't there. Yeah. But some of that also is that, you know, when you play an actor, you know, 100 million to be in a... Well, I don't think they quite got that far yet, but it's getting close. You know, when they're paying 50 million for you to be in a movie, well, really? Should anyone really ever be paid 50 million? I mean, if you've got people like the army out there risking their lives and people going into space who may never come back if it all goes really wrong, and you're playing some knob to be on a screen kicking a ball of wind or whatever, can we dial back some of these ludicrous salaries? Because you should. I mean, there was a thing I watched last night and it said Robert Downey Jr. got $500,000 for Iron Man 1. Well, and this is the thing, there are people like Keanu Reeves who will not take part in a film unless they hire half the local hobos to do jobs and give them work to do and pay them. Now that I can get behind. You know, people like that I can get behind, right? But, you know, some of the big name people who walk around with their multi-million... He is. And, you know, it is quite scary that there aren't more like him, to be honest. That for everybody else, it is 100%, you know, you're not paying me enough money, I've only got 50 million. Most people don't see 50 million in their lifetimes. Get over yourself. But what I find difficult with actors especially is I can't go down the shop to get a glass, you know, to get a pint of milk because everyone will recognise me. You strive throughout your career to be exactly that. You know, if you want to be rich and famous, well, you're going to be if you make it, well, you're rich and famous. So yes, people will recognise you. That's kind of what it means. Don't be then pissy that you can't, you know, go out on a date or go down the local movie theatre without being recognised. Well, of course you're going to be recognised. You've just spent 20 years becoming rich and famous. Can we not pretend that that was not the purpose of what you did? No. Yeah, don't. Sorry, Mr. Beast, but I don't like you. I don't care if you do some good things with the amount of money that you've got. Well, you see a lot of it now. You get, you know, you get videos of people who've been somewhere and someone's doing a full Karen show for the population, right? And, you know, and it'll be some twerp, you know, woman, male, doesn't really matter. But someone going, you know, kind of like, well, you should be giving me free stuff because you're going to get advertising when I put you on my Instagram. Yeah, love, you got like 10 followers. Get over yourself, you know? I mean, you know, pay for it like the rest of the world. You if they offer you, that's one thing. But, you know, don't just keep walking around expecting everything for free because 3 people, including your nan, followed you on YouTube, you know. I mean, if you're like Asmongold, then maybe you can do a little bit of the, you know, because so many people will recognise you, then there is, you know, Mr. Beast and all the rest of it. So many people will recognise you. There is a chance that you would more likely hear something about, you know, potential free loots, for want of a better word, because people have recognised you. And that if you mention it on your stuff, that, you know, it will be beneficial. But, you know, much like any of the stuff that I talk about on my channel, it's not going to even, you know, no marketing firm ever is going to say to me, hey, you know, we saw you advertised our thing. Here's 20 grand's worth of kit from our company because, you know, we heard you mention our thing on your YouTube. No, it said nobody ever, right? That and lace making people don't tend to give their shit away anyway. But it is that kind of purpose, right? It is the people need to stop expecting things for free, and without wishing to sound too cruel towards the Americans in this, they need to stop forcing tipping on you guys. Tips are for exceptional service, not for doing your job. And if the job doesn't pay properly, well, that's on the owner of the company for not paying up. Nowhere else in the world mandatorily has tipping. Mind you, very few other places in the world do you go into a store, find something that says 5 currency units on it, go to the till and then not pay 5 currency units, you know? Tipping, you know, and that's the thing is that I don't mind a box on my receipt that says tick here if you agree to pay tipping kind of thing, and then it will automatically, you know, and you type in an amount or, you know, do you wish to apply a certain percentage as a tip. If it is quite clear and it is an optional thing that you have to opt in, I am all for that. You know, because, you know, sometimes who wants to, you know, if you've got a bill of, I don't know, £153.67, no one wants to work out what's their 20% charge of that is in their head after a few beers, right? But at the same time, forcing people to pay tips when maybe they had the sulkiest, bitchiest waitress in the history of ever, well, that doesn't seem entirely fair either. Why should she get a 20% tip? And, of course, most likely doesn't actually get the 20% tip. It goes into a pot. But why should, you know, why should people benefit from her atrocious service? She should be being encouraged to improve service, not, you know, lessen service. Because if she can get it anyway, what's the point in being nice, right? I don't have a problem with tipping per se, but I also then don't understand how, you know, if you have a thing marked $50, that you go to the till, it's not $50. I'm sorry, I'm not doing that as well as tipping. That gets too complicated. Plus then, like, you know, many people of the American nation have pointed out, then of course it comes to doing taxes. Well, then when you do your taxes, not only have you paid taxes when you bought it, but you've now got to tell the government how much of it you did. And I mean, here in the UK, we have a fairly simple system. It's called pay as you earn. And for 99% of people, most, you know, you have one employer, even if you have multiple employers, but you have one employer, that employer sees your wages, gets and it is. I mean, over here, so let's say I had 2 jobs, right? Job 1 is my main job, and that then gives me, because in the UK you get roughly £12,000 a year tax free. Anything you earn over it and up to a total of, I think it's about 52 grand, you pay 20% tax on. Over that it's 40% tax, right? And there's another one at 100 grand, but hey, I'm nowhere near any of those figures, so you know. But if I had 2 jobs, and let's say I earned 30 grand at one and 10 at the other, job 1, the 30 grand one, would give me my 12 grand a year tax free and tax me on the remaining. Job 2 would then tax all of my wages at 20% because the Inland Revenue would have told them to. The only times that you get to do tax returns are when you have variable rate incomes from alternative sources, such as you are a landlord, such as you are a business and you pay yourself out of what you earn, or that you have because if you pay as you earn and it's one employer, even if you do overtime and you get bonuses and all that, it's still handled because you've got one source of income, it comes from here, they declare it, it's all good. Hey Silicon Alan, how you doing? So it strikes me as really, really odd that other countries, I mean, I know a number of countries do very similar, so we are not alone. But once again, you American weird people, so not only does the price of, you know, you know, the price of this Magnum Sharpie, right? We're just generally moaning, I think, is the main source of moans. You are free to bring up your own shenanigans, but currently we're on the subject of enforced tipping, taxes, and other weirdnesses that go on. So, now, but I can also tell you, it wouldn't be one of my streams without a bit of whining in it somewhere, right? But you see, for example, if you earn interest on your savings here in the UK and you get more than... Well, tipping should be, you know, as we said just before you arrived, tipping should be you did a stellar job. Not you did the job you were paid for. Now, if the job you were paid for does not pay enough, that is on the owner of the business, who is either not charging sufficient prices or is reaping too much profit and not paying you well enough. It should not be required to give tipping. Now, my main source of confusion is that, let's say here in the UK this is £10. Yeah. But if this is £10 and I see this on a shelf and it says £10, I go to the counter, I put it down and they will take £10 and I can walk away with it. In America, of course, you've got to pay taxes on that. Well, then include it in the fucking price. Because it's not like it varies by person. If your local taxes are 20%, put the 20% on the price, right? So if it's not going to be $12, then it's $12, right? Then, of course, and this is where the tipping thing came in. this is a pretty epic pen, to be honest. But, you know, like everything, it makes it so difficult for people when the price that it says on the thing is not what you pay. If you go to a restaurant and it says for £20 you can have a fully roast dinner, I expect to walk out having paid £20 and maybe if I, maybe a couple of extra quid for a drink. I do not expect to then have to calculate, using, three points of reference, the rotation of the universe to work out how much I'm going to be paying in forms of taxes, tipping, parking fees, and any other additions that, because just write down the number I need to pay on the piece of paper, and I'll decide if I can afford that or not. If I have 20 quid and I want a roast dinner, I'll pay you 20 quid for it. Don't then be coming up going, oh, well, I see you had gravy. Well, yeah, it says it came with gravy. Yes, but the gravy was extra. I mean, as I said, if we in the UK have VAT, value added tax, right? And if you go into a shop, buy a computer, a car, whatever it is, yeah, basically. But it's the, again, if I go and buy, say, a PC and it says it's £1,000, in the UK, in the shop, if it says £1,000 on the ticket, that is the price at the till. The only time that cannot be true is if they have mispriced it, and they must immediately inform you and give you one of two choices. One, now you don't necessarily get to pick which of the choices, but they get to pick which of the two choices. They can either choose to let you buy that at the £1,000 because that's what it said, or they can apologise to you and must immediately go and rectify the price tag and tell you what the actual price should be. Okay? Those are the only two lawful choices they have here in the UK. Now, we used to fall foul of magazines because magazines could be available to businesses. Businesses don't pay taxes in the same way we normal mere humans do because they get to claim their tax back. So they tend to buy things without taxes. So if it says it was £999, somewhere in the magazine it would have in a very tiny micro small print at the bottom plus VAT, right? And they had to stop this because too many people were falling for it. Oh, I can afford that £1,000 machine. Oh wait, it's actually 200 quid more. No, I can't. And so for 99% of the population, tax is 20%. If it's apply it to the price. If it applies to that product, because some things are not taxable, and I can't remember what they are, but doesn't matter. Some things do not necessarily have tax on them. But if you are to pay tax on the item, it doesn't vary with person. If you have a shop, everyone entering the shop will pay the same tax, and let's say it's 20%. Well, then add 20% to your prices and say price at till is price on tag. Done. None of this add some extra, and because when you go food shopping and it says, a packet of burgers are £5, aren't you pissed when you get to the counter and it's not? How do you work out if you're in budget? How do you work out if you can splash on some, on a cake or whatever at the end of the month because you deserve to have a treat? When the prices on everything aren't what you're paying. That just, I know you obviously get used to it to an extent, but set off. If I go in with if I go in to buy a bottle of wine, not that I buy alcohol, but if I go in with a bottle of wine and it says £7 on it, I expect to pay £7 for it. There are just too many things, I think, that, we've made our lives overly complicated for the sheer fun of it. And it's all so highly unnecessary. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's, But of course, the more expensive a thing it could be, well, then you have to go up to 5s and 10s, right? It is, but you know, for people who maybe don't have quite so many brain cells, that kind of calculation is not something they would find easy. And so is it any wonder then people are in debt? Because, well, every time they go to buy something, the price isn't what it said it was. You know. No, but at the same time, everything you buy has taxes on it. I mean, depending on which state you're in, and that's something else that my brain hurts. But, you know, because there's state taxes and federal taxes. And I mean, I get it. I mean, we don't really have that here in the UK. The UK has taxes, period, right? I believe Scotland... I mean, there are differences. Okay. But it is, you know, it's just one of those overly complicated things. And then you poor sods have to do tax returns where you have to kind of fill in the colour of your future child's underwear 6 years before you have it. I mean, as I say, I'm 53 this year. I think I filled in one tax return in my entire life. And I filled it in, and I didn't owe them anything. That was it. Done. Now, Trev for years got hounded by the Inland Revenue, who are our tax people. And the problem was, say, every odd year, they would write to him and go, "Oh, Mr. Riley, you owe us £1,000. And every even year, you have overpaid us by £1,000. Now, Trev did not do the sensible thing, which was know that this £1,000 was going to go back and forth. Yeah. And, I mean, don't even start us on our fucking petrol taxes. It's something like 180% of the price paid at the pump for a litre of fuel is tax. For a litre of fuel here in the UK is currently about £1.45 or something. So, you know, if you drive a lot, you've paid one fucking hell of a lot. You know, your average tax rent on that is, you know, is a lot. Now, I don't drive a lot. It's amazing how much you save when you don't drive a lot. Because, of course, I now work from home, so I don't drive to work. And, of course, because I don't drive to work, I'm not inclined to go to 50 other places on the way home. So, my poor car barely moves an inch. I mean, last year, when I had to go for my hospital checkup, I discovered that my car had died. That was August. It was February this year before I got it fixed. I hadn't needed it. And even then, I only got it fixed because I apparently can't insure my car without it being roadworthy. I didn't know that. Nor did a lot of people when I told them. Because it then raised lots of questions, because here in the UK there are basically there are technically three, but two core levels of insurance. One is there are three. There's fire and theft, third party fire and theft, and fully comp, right? Fully comp means that potentially other people you can drive other people's cars on your insurance. Third party fire and theft means basically if you munge your car, you're on your own, but if someone else hits your car, you're covered. And it's kind of a scale. So the bottom one is fire and theft. Oh, I know. I don't. And of course, the other thing that's historically always true, I don't know about other countries, but they've got huge oil reserves for which they are making petrol and fuels from, right? It very much does. But they've got huge oil reserves, so it's not like, you know, the barrel they bought this morning is going out, you know, is being currently processed. It's in a warehouse. It's at the back of the warehouse. It's a bit like, you know, shops have constant supply of, you know, stuff to sell. Stuff at the front is not stuff that came in this morning, right? But the moment oil prices go up, petrol prices go up. Now, the oil they bought to put the petrol that you're trying to pump did not cost them that. But they put the price up. But when it goes down, the petrol prices don't seem to go down. Well, they do, as long as it stays down for a really long time. It kind of goes up immediately and then really slowly comes back down. We all do our, you know, many companies' greed does do everyone a disservice. I can't remember who it was. Oh, it was Thames Water. That's who it was. So, here in the UK, most of the southern of England has their water supplied by Severn Water. Severn Trent or Thames. Yeah, you can understand, you know, higher demand, you know, you've got to be able to push it through a little bit. But there's still limits, right? But here in the UK, you know, there aren't many water suppliers. It's not like electricity and phones and, you know, you almost, you know, where, you know, you and I could set up a phone company kind of thing, right? It is very much if you have water, you have it from these people. It's not really optional. And it's geographic, so if you live in this area, your water is supplied by X, right? Thames Valley and Severn Trent are the only two in the southern part of the UK. And I think it was Severn Water, it might have been Thames Valley, it doesn't really matter. But one of them, despite like doubling water prices over the last year, issued out 120 billion in dividends to the shareholders. And they've been done by the Ofcom overseers, who basically said, you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to double your prices just so that you can all have a big divvy at the end of the year. It's not how it works. It's not how, you know, that's not British, darling. I'm deciding whether I continue or give up. I know I've only been doing this 2 hours, but I'm hungry. I'm real hungry. And I've spotted mistakes. For fuck's sake. I must be absolutely incompetent. Yeah, I don't know what happened here. Something didn't happen. Yeah, it is Sunday. I have lasagna and chips for tea, lunch, whatever. Well, it's going to be tea now. It's 5 o'clock. But yeah, I'm hungry. My little stomach has been rumbling throughout the whole of this. I did mean to eat first, but I didn't. So I didn't, if you know what I mean. Didn't get round to it, and regretting those choices. But we are working through our triangle. We are. I do those kind of things on a Friday usually. I had Domino's on Friday this week. I had a hankering for Domino's, so I had Domino's. And I was obviously way more hungry than I gave myself credit, because I bought a large pizza. Now, I am not the skinniest lady. Well, it is when you work, because obviously, you know, you've done your hours of work, you're finally done for the week, and just being able to not have to cook and wash up afterwards on a Friday is a joy to behold. So, but I ordered myself a large pizza, a garlic bread, and some loaded fries. Ate the whole freaking lot, and kind of was like, I should have ordered more. I was hungry, and to be honest, I'm going to have to do me some bread with this lasagna, because I should point out, technically it's supposed to be enough lasagna for two. It's supposed to be lasagna and chips for two. Only two infinitely small, feeble human beings. I envy people who find the portions of meals normal. I do envy you, because, you know, I've got a friend who eats like a slice of, a 12-inch pizza, and she's full now. I wish I suffered from that. I really do. Because I can eat 2 pizzas, let alone slices, And I've always had a big appetite, and as a result, I am not a skinny lady. I mean, comparatively, I'm not, I'm not as bad as I could be. I'm nowhere near the 600-pound lifer. I'm not even half that. But I'm still trying. It can be done, but the problem is, and I'm sure you understand this, is that, well, it tastes nice. And it is too easy to get to overeat and not, because I suffer from constantly being hungry at the best of times, right? I can literally eat till the point I would puke if I ate anything more, but my brain will still be telling me I'm hungry, right? And as a result, it is very difficult for me to curtail eating, because, well, my brain is constantly telling me I'm hungry, because I am. But I don't need it. That's the difference. So I do try and regulate myself quite a bit. Hence, I am not even 300 pounds. But I also fail, because one of my... Well, I don't really do fish, I don't really do fruit, and I don't really do vegetables as a whole. Now, that's not a flat rule, but it's a starter point, right? Because there are fruit that I will eat, but I don't think to buy any. There are vegetables I will eat, and I do occasionally buy them. I really do like, for example, Christmas dinner has got to have roast parsnips and carrots, and I quite like sweet corn. I don't mind cauliflower. I like potatoes, obviously. But at the same time, my natural reaction when hungry is I would like cake, pizza, biscuits, crisps. That's what my brain wants to eat all the time. So I could easily be a my 600 pounder, because I could sit there and eat morning, noon and night and swell to the size of a planet, right? But I'd try not to. Some days more successfully than others. Oh, I ate those, didn't I? That's true. So I was just thinking of something I ordered. But, so like for tea, I'm going to have lasagna and chips. Now, if I tell you the lasagna is about this big, and the chips come in a punnet like that, and there's about, well, it's not a heaped punnet, it's kind of a handful of bits of potato at the bottom. I'm a boredom eater. The problem is, I'm easily bored. I know it's a boredom eater because I go to get a glass of water. Yeah, I do the go to get a glass of water from the kitchen and mooch through the cupboards, and then, I could eat that, and then I'll go away and eat it. It wasn't like I went in there with my stomach going in the corner. No. I went in there and, because I needed a glass of water, I came out with, 6 packets of crisps, two packets of biscuits and half a pizza. And then I'll eat it. I don't need anything like that much, but I would, And I really would. I mean, my dad and I always used to talk about how he was as bad as me, but how, you know, in preference, we could sit at the cake aisle of the local food mall and eat one end to the other. And we both could do it. I have a very sweet tooth, and you hear lots of people go, oh, I couldn't eat that, it's too rich, or oh no, that's far too sweet for me. No, darling, there is nothing on this planet that is too sweet for me. I will eat it, and I will not feel sick, and I can eat a lot of it, and I do mean a lot of it. I could probably eat, you know, my last meal would be basically body weight of cakes, right? Basically I'd eat until I was done. It would just be a thing, right? Especially cheesecake, really into a good cheesecake. But to be honest, you know, there'd be ice creams and cakes and biscuits and treacle tart and all of it. Pile it on in there. I will eat that. And like all small children, it's a bit like I'm full. Do you want some ice cream? Oh yes, I can always fit that in. Because in your head, it trickles down between the gaps, right? But you can always fit it in, because you can, because realistically, it's just water. I have great problems with sweet things. So I try not to buy them. Or at least I try to buy only one day's allowance. And that day, when the food comes, I eat it. That's mean. I like it though. Yeah, I mean, I do know the feeling. I mean, you know, I go to people's houses and they go, oh, would you like something to eat? And I'm like, no, I'm good, thanks. Well, the reason is, love, is you're going to give me like, you know, 2 mouthfuls and I'll be sitting there staring like the dog, you know, that you've got food. How dare you not give me all of it? So if I say no, I won't be starting it, you know? Because, of course, I don't necessarily expect someone to give me a me-sized portion of something. I did a long stream yesterday. I did a really long stream on Friday. I want to play a bit more with my strip. I mean, I know I could do that on the stream. Exactly. Do you want cake? Yes. What do you mean a slice? No, I said cake. Who wanted a slice of it? And oh, seriously, the most insulting thing in the history of the world is when you go somewhere and the slice of cake is not like a quarter. It's like this 3 atom wide sample. It's not a slice. It's a sample. It's a taster. It's a freaking hors d'oeuvre of a slice, right? This thing is not even a 1%, you know, a 1 degree slice of the cake, right? Do not be feeling that. If you gonna offer me cake, it's got. Yeah, frankly, you can inhale and not even notice you had it, right? Slices of cakes come in. If it's a really big, girthy cake, you're allowed to cut it in 8, right? If it's a normal sized cake, quarters. That is the smallest slice of cake that comes out of one of those is a quarter. Preferably half or more, right? And don't be bothering with 3/4 because then some poor sod ends up with a quarter of it, right? Unless you have a mouse as your alternative friend who's going to go, oh, I've had a nibble, oh, that's plenty for me. Yeah, if you've got one of those, yeah, they can have one. They can have a wafer thin slice. I'll have the rest, thanks. It really does upset me greatly when, you know, when you look at a cake and it'll be like a cake that's about this big and it says 8 to 10 people and you look at it and go, bites, not people. Can we not? Yeah, it's just a large cupcake. What the hell do you mean 8 to 10 people? Can we, you know, some of that is, and I do appreciate. Well, yeah, I mean, it's just really insulting when, I mean, as I said, when you look at some of the meal sizes and you go, my child, I know children that eat more than that. You know, sometimes the portion sizes, due to the calorific content, are deemed, you know, this is a portion, and it'll be like, you know, this much of it, and you're kind of going, you know, I know this has got stuff in it, but this tiny slither is not a portion of anything, right? I don't care what it's made of. I don't care if that's 20,000 calories. That, my love, is not a portion. I mean, no one sitting down to cake is under the illusion it's calorie free. So don't be trying to be all godlike and dictating that you may only have 2 mouthfuls of that. If I want some frigging cake, I want some frigging cake. So I am going to be eating dinner for 2 for my tea, and enjoying it, frankly. And probably having some bread with butter on it to go with. Because, well, why not? I have to confess, what the fuck is with Oreos? There's something wrong with them. I like the creamy bit in the middle. That's perfectly good. But it's the biscuits. It is the only thing with sugar in that actually makes me feel slightly nauseous. What is in Oreos? I mean, don't get that. But as you say, exactly. Hence, I identify as a family of 2, and I'm going to eat lasagna, chips, and and I think that's a lot of it. Is it tastes like many years ago. Exactly, right? If I can identify as a bloke and you can identify as a girl if you so desire, I can identify as a family of 2. Leave me out of it, right? But it is one of those things, so one for each personality. There you go. But one of the things that when I was about 16, I went out with a bloke, and we were at his parents' house one Easter, and his brother brought back his new girlfriend, and she was vegan. And so while Mummy had bought us all chocolate Easter eggs, we're not talking anything exciting, you know, a couple of cream eggs kind of deal, we went looking for a vegan Easter egg. Dear God, it was like finding rocking horse poo, right? But we did actually find one. Now, I need to point out that an egg that was not much bigger than this, and that's lengthwise, not girthwise, lengthwise, was nearly £12. And this was nearly 40 years ago, right? And she was so pleased that we'd got her a vegan Easter egg. She really was. Over the moon. She offered us all a bit. And bear in mind, there wasn't a lot to share. She gave us, you know, a micro crumb of I have never eaten anything more disgusting in my life. Only it wasn't. It wasn't even pure dark chocolate. The best way to describe this was compressed dark wood shavings. It was gritty. It was powdery. It was probably, it was just the most revolting thing. It was the most revolting goddamn thing I've ever eaten in the name of chocolate. And I've had some hideous things done with chocolate. But fuck me, a chocolate coated sprout would be better than this shit. I mean, it was. I mean, a friend of mine absolutely hates Ferrero Rocher. I can tell you now, if they'd eaten this Easter egg, they would like Ferrero Rocher. Well, exactly. I mean, she was super pumped that we'd gone, because we all went out like a treasure hunt in a car. There must have been 5 of us crammed in a Peugeot 205 looking for a fucking vegan Easter egg. And we went round like 40 different bloody shops. We drove to about 5 different places to try and find it. And as I say, all we could find was this shitty little thing. One thing that I think about 5 days later, she did say, by the way, dark magic, because obviously trays of chocolate, so like dairy milk and all the rest of it used to do trays of chocolate. Dark magic was vegan friendly, and we were like, well, if you'd fucking said, we could at least have all have enjoyed those. But we got her this piss off. Oh, she loved it. And more to the point, she actually enjoyed it, and it didn't look to be the, oh, yummy auntie, this is so lovely. No, she actually really seemed to really like this thing. It has lived in my mind that this thing existed, and the fear of it. I mean, it and all the horror movies I've ever seen in my life, nothing on this Easter egg. Nothing. Well, I also should point out that the sheep got out, and there we all were in grunts and wellies, literally, your underwear and wellies, running around a farm catching sheep. It was not on this particular day, but she was the same girl that a couple of months before we had, been in the middle of winter, so there's snow and everything, running around chasing sheep in nothing but wellies and your grunts. And she was nowhere to be seen, because she was dressing up like she was going to the fucking Antarctic. And eventually, when we'd basically caught them all, she came out with like 68 layers and, 9 woolly hats and gloves and very much. And you want to know the funniest thing? So we'd all been out there in the snow, in our grunts, running around, basically naked with wellies on. And finally came in, sat down, had a cup of tea, and then went back to bed, right? Next morning, we all got up. Great, wonderful. Have you thawed out yet? No, it's still a bit cold, but it'll wear off. Never mind, eh? I'll just wear a bit of a thicker jumper today. Bloody cow had caught something. She was ill as a dog for a week. And she was only out there like 5 minutes when we'd finished. We were out there like an hour and a half in our grunts, in like minus whatever, freezing things off. Shrinkage was a problem. Pointy things were a problem. Everything was a problem. And she turned up looking like the Michelin Man. I will point out that the brother did not stay with her too much longer. She wasn't a bad person. I mean, especially considering her affliction of veganism. She was really quite a nice lady, but she really didn't fit in because, well, nobody else was. I mean, Christ, no one is even vegetarian, let alone vegan. So, she was a little bit off. It was hard to cater for her, was very much the theme of the day. And expecting, mother to cook 2 different meals because, not touching the pan, and it's a bit much on people. I do have a friend who is vegetarian, sort of, although I will also point out, and I do rub this in her face, I've seen her eat a McDonald's hamburger. So I know she... Oh, no, it wasn't my mother. It wasn't my mother. No, this wasn't that was their mother, but, the mother, shall we call her. So Penny was, Penny was a nice lady. Yeah, no one would, I wouldn't have done that to anybody. But, yeah, it was quite a laugh because, expecting Penny to cook was difficult. Yeah, the royal mother, mother figure of the household. Expecting the mother to cook. No, you're missing the word fucker off the end. I had the royal motherfucker. That's what I had. But yeah, it was. Yeah. No, it was definitely an event. No, but yeah, I've got a vegetarian friend who, her answer is if, for example, I've cooked roast chicken and she turns up and I go, would you want some? She'll just have whatever veg and the gravy and she's not so vegetarian that she can't have the gravy because it might have some chicken juice in it, or, you know, she will have, if it's got, you know, if she has a pizza and it's got meat on it, she'll just pick it off. She's not irritating about it, but she does almost constantly bring up that she's vegetarian, and I'm going, but you ate a hamburger, I watched you. In fact, I remember driving her to go and get it, so let's not pretend that didn't happen. She got told off for not having enough iron, and her doctor told her to eat meat, so she went and got a hamburger. Well, there's your problem. You don't think that's real meat, do you? I mean, it's certainly not the best bit. Yeah, I mean, the other ones the other vegetarians that make you laugh are the ones who, of course, are vegetarian, but then they eat fish. No, so you're a pescatarian then. Or they're vegetarian, but they eat chicken. And you're kind of going, you do know that that's an animal, right? I mean, I'm vegetarian, except I eat cows and pigs and chickens. Yeah. How does, you know, how you just... I mean, don't get me wrong. I do believe that we should not be overly cruel to them. They do have shorter lives, but we do not need to be overly cruel to them. But, you know, an awful lot of them come into this life so they can become my dinner. If I did not want them for my dinner, then they would never have been. So the fact that they even had a life is because I was going to eat them. So it's not entirely cruel as long as they are dealt with in a reasonably humane manner. Now, abattoirs are not exactly a place for the weak of mind. But at the same time, for want of the expression, the humane way of doing it, yeah, as long as there is not over anguish and you know, all the rest of it. Although most animals know when they're going to the abattoir, they're not stupid. They don't want to go. You know, they can smell it on the van. Cows can be intelligent, do not get me wrong. But sometimes you have to dig real deep to find it. Most of them are usually not. And I guess if you think about it, what does a cow do all day? It stands in a field eating grass and farting. You don't need a lot of brains to achieve that. You really, really don't. You know, they're not exactly, you know, establishing the next cure for cancer or right, you know, the next network protocol here. They are standing in a field, going chompty, 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 moo, fart, right? So it's not too surprising then that they've not evolved to have advanced capabilities. I mean, if you think of how, no offence to our children of the day, but many of the children of the day kind of have similar traits. They grew up staring at iPads, not having any imagination, so now don't have any. They don't do crafting because they can't even work out the idea of stabbing things with a needle and thread to join two bits together in any shape or form. It's just beyond them, and they don't see the point when. And to be fair, I mean, you've seen how long this shit takes me. Why would you bother when you can? Yeah. I mean, it sounds far-fetched, but I've seen people like that. Yep. But again, I want, you know, if I want a net curtain, I can buy one. Hang on, we'll look it up on Amazon just to kind of just to be fair to it, so I do not do it a disservice. Net curtain. Right. Okay, so this one's huge, but a net curtain, 2 meters wide, 45 inches down, which is like 5 times the size that I actually need. £7.40. This reel of cotton costs more than that. Fair enough, that sounds like a good idea. But this net curtain has, 9 months on, I've made half, I basically made, well, it'll be 10 months by the time I get to the end of it. In 10 months, I'll have made half a net curtain, right? And this is roughly on par with what I thought. Hang on, counting. Yeah, it's about where I thought, because I have had a few breaks along the way, right? So for 6 months of my life and many hours, I mean, I did count them up, it's a lot of hours. It's the best part of nearly 200 hours on YouTube. I've made half a net curtain. When I could buy one that is like 8 times the size for £7.40. Why would you bother? And it's a valid point. Why would you bother? There you go. If I make it 1 metre width, which is the smallest that they offer, £3.70. Well, no, it's because it's the only fucking thing I could think I would, out of lace, that I thought I would use. That's actually why I'm doing it. But, and there is the challenge and the setting of my own goals and designing my own. But why would you bother when for £3.70 I can buy one and have it tomorrow? Why would you? Or more accurately, why would most people? And the answer, because, let's face it, if I'm going to take, let's say it takes me 9 months to make this. Well, I'm going to, if you wanted to buy it off me, I mean, you're an idiot, but it is an adventure. But at the same time, if you say to me, Liz, can you make me one? I'm going to want a hefty amount of money, because I've got to devote half a year of my frigging life to doing it. I mean, if you wanted a whole curtain, we worked out that a whole curtain's an approximately 18-month job, right? If you wanted a single window net curtain, so that is a window about this wide kind of thing, right? And, yay tall, right? If you wanted a net curtain for that, and it's going to take me 18 months, well, I know that it sounds really ridiculous, but even if I wanted £1,000 for that, for 18 months of my life, I would have to work on that. There'd probably be the best part 400 or 500 hours in it. When you can buy one for £3.70 and have it tomorrow. Who'd buy it? Because a number of people have said to me, oh, why don't you could do this as your job. No, I couldn't. Not make any money at it. I mean, I do a number of crafty things. I make tea towels, hence, oh, you can't really see it 'cause it's underneath the thing. But, I make tea towels and all sorts. And yes, once my loom is dressed and ready for work, I can bang out a tea towel in about an hour. But it takes me a week to set my loom up. Now, admittedly, what you do is, like I did last time, which is put as much yardage on the back of the loom so that you don't have to set it up again for a really, really long time. And I've always had a bit of a thought along the lines of, I'm currently doing this because I can, because I want to, because it's there. If suddenly I now have to, that tends to zap the fun out of it. I mean, to be honest, sometimes streaming it zaps some of the fun out of it, because I feel, well, I really ought to, when I don't really want to. Now, I enjoy driving. I really do. I actually do enjoy driving. Mostly. I mean, there are a lot of arseholes out there, but I mostly enjoy driving. But I wouldn't want to do it as my job. Because now I've got to spend a minimum of 8 hours a day driving arseholes around. Well, where's the fun in that? The fun in driving is going where I want to go. The fun in driving is stopping when I see something I want to look at. Maybe pulling in at some pub or for lunch, or stopping to admire a great view, or making note to come back here because I want to have a better look at, right? Being made to drive and, you know, ferrying some old dear to the hospital and back, it's a very worthy profession and someone needs to do it. But it takes the fun out of it. There's a reason work is called work and not fun. Well, I'm thinking of going and cooking my dinner, to be honest, because, well, dinner, my stomach is getting rather knotty about not being fed, and you know, is there a problem further up the food chain? Because, you know, are you on strike? Is there a problem? You know, so I think I will call it a day. And it's been great to chat with you, as always. You know, let me take a picture for my lovely thumbnail. There you go. So yes, I will be back sometime after this time tomorrow, assuming work does not kill me and that they have not screwed up the thing that they were working on today, and I don't spend my entire day digging people out of holes, for then I might be socially battery drained and unable to function. But with any luck, I will be here tomorrow. If not, we'll be here Tuesday. Take care, everybody. Thank you for coming. And by the way, if you're not notified by Twitch of my streams and you are a follower, we do have a Discord you can join. !socials or !Discord, I think is still also a valid option. Hang on, just checking. Yes, it is. !Discord. If you join that, it's not a particularly chatty area, although you're welcome to come and chat. But it is a good source of notifications to when I go live, because I do lead a rather varied time schedule. But I should be back tomorrow, if not, definitely on Tuesday. And I shall see you then. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Actually, I'm going to see if there's anyone to raid before I do that. She says, just checking. Let's just see if there's anyone. Don't know if there is. See if there's anyone going. No, not really. So yes, take care everyone, and I shall see you tomorrow.